Yeah, I mean, Howie's, is a tremendous player. Really, coming out of Villanova and Milford, he has a great connection. But, tremendous player, very hard to block, tremendous motor, and kind of kept track of him through Chris's career. But it's good to cross paths with Howie. I have all the respect in the world for him as a person, the way he plays the game, the way he represents the game. I mean, he's awesome. And Chris does too, so it's a great football family. His brother working against him this year in training camp with the Bears. It was a big long reunion. So it was great to see them all there together.
Bill, earlier this year you said that you were looking at Keenan Reynolds when Landon Roberts caught your eye in the scouting process. I'm curious how Malcolm Butler came across your desk. I imagine you're not watching too many Division II Gulf South Conference tapes. How did you find a guy like that, and how did he get on your radar?
Just digging through some guys at the end of the draft. When the draft was over, there were a number of players that weren't signed that we still had interest in. We invited Malcolm up for rookie minicamp, and we had probably, 10 to 15 players like that had finished their college career that were not signed with a team, that were essentially there for a tryout, an extended tryout over that minicamp period, along with our draft choices and the players that we had signed after the draft. We also had a couple of veteran-type players that weren't with the team, fell under a certain category that we could have there. So I'd say once we saw Malcolm on the field after the first workout, it was pretty obvious that we felt like this is the type of kid that you want to work with. I mean, he was obviously raw, that you want to work with, and he had a good training camp, and got a little bit of playing time during the year, but he kind of really, we saw him firsthand when we actually saw him in our building in that rookie minicamp 3 years ago.
Maybe up the middle here. Most coaches and players in the NFL spend their whole lives trying to get to one Super Bowl. This is now your 10th. Do you ever allow yourself a moment to reflect on that and what this game has meant to you over the years?
Yeah, I think, it'll be certainly a time to reflect on that at some point. I mean, right now, really just trying to put all my energy into preparing our team as well as I possibly can for the Falcons. Falcons are a great football team, well coached. They have a great organization, a lot of great players, very difficult to play against. So at some point, I'll take a look back. It's certainly an honor to be in this game. It's a privilege to represent the AFC in this championship game, and to have been in it that many times is special this year because Brian and Steven are on the staff as well. But it's special to be here. It's no question about that. But in terms of numbers and other games and other times and all that, we'll get to that at some other point.
Bill, how do you see Tom Brady as a role model for younger players, just in the way he approaches his job and sets an example of how to approach his job?
Yeah, Tom works very hard. Tom prepares well, always has. He's very diligent in his preparation. It's not an up and down thing at all. It's consistent every week in terms of learning the defense, learning their schemes, learning their players, getting our game plan, making sure that he knows what we're doing and how we're doing it, and then getting into situational football as we get closer to the game. So he's, very smart, has obviously a lot of experience. In our system, he has a lot of experience against different defensive coordinators, against different players, against different situations. He's able to put it all together better than any player I've ever coached, putting all that together at once in just a couple seconds of time that he has to process it once he gets the call or gets to the line of scrimmage. So I think his preparation allows him to, in part, do that. He has good football instincts as well. And certainly all players, all of us, coaches as well. It's a great role model for all of us, any player, any coach.
Bill, over here, Coach.
Oh, yeah.
Nate Ebner, 7 months ago, he's, playing in the Olympics, and now he's preparing to play in the Super Bowl. Can you just talk about that journey that he's gone on just this year, how special that is?
Yeah, I talked to Nate about that last spring, and then we got into contract negotiation with him as he's a free agent. So part of that discussion was not just playing for the Patriots, but the opportunity to, to play in the Olympics and so forth. And then once we got past that point, we talked about when he came back, what that would be like, what he would need to do to catch up and prepare himself for a season and so forth. So we had a number of conversations along the way, as well as other members of our staff. Steve, who coached him, of course, and Joe Judge, who coaches him. Those guys have him primarily as safety and in the kicking game. And when he got back, the first thing was just not to go too fast, not to try to jump from the Olympics into the National Football League preseason training camp practices from one day to the next. So it was a little bit of a break-in period, which I think was good for him. And Nate's worked extremely hard this year. He's had a great year. He's done a great job taking a strong leadership role amongst kind of the core guys in the kicking game. Matt Slater does a tremendous job for us, but they play different positions. So, Nate as the personal protector on the punt team, that's kind of the quarterback of the punt team. There's a key role there. And same thing in the punt return, kind of being right in the middle of the action there with the checks and so forth based on, what might come up, on the punt return side of it. So, and he and Matt communicate well together in those situations as well. So he's done a great job for us. He's worked really hard. He's helped make a lot of his teammates better and allowed them to play better, but through this communication, anticipation, recognition, and experience. So this is by far his best year. And I'm not saying that was unexpected, but he certainly had a very grueling off season. He talked about some of the workouts that they went through in preparation for the Olympics. And one thing, when he came back, he was in great shape, no question about that. So, and he'd done a lot of tackling, so that was good. He's made a lot of tackles for us this year. So Nate's had a really good year for us.
Bill, some of the greatest coaches in NFL history, many of them in the Hall of Fame, were unable to sustain their motivation as they got older. What enables you to keep it up, as it were, and continue to produce at such a high level?
Yeah, well, I don't really see it as work. It actually beats working, so get to do what you love to do, doing it with a lot of great people, have a great staff. Players work hard. They're very cooperative and compliant. They have a great attitude about teamwork and playing unselfishly and working unselfishly. So, really doesn't feel like work. I try to give everybody an opportunity to do their job, and I have a lot of people that do it very well. Great coaching staff, great group of players. I have a lot of respect for all of them. So, try to stay out of the way and let them do their job. They all do it pretty well.
Coach, over to your right over here. I know you always preach situational football, situational awareness. When it comes to obscure or rare instances like a fair catch, free kick, a play like that, do you remember ever being involved with a play like that in a game? And is that the kind of thing that you have to periodically remind your players of those kind of rare, unusual kind of plays?
Sure. Yeah, those kind of plays come up sometimes once in a career, or I'm talking about players' career. And they are very unusual. First of all, you have to explain the situation so that everybody understands it. And in some cases, as a coaching staff, we may need further explanation from Dean Blandino about particular nuance or that type of thing that would come up. But yeah, in the end, you try to cover your bases on those. Closest it really came up for us at the Patriots was against Miami in I think it was 2002. When at the end of the game we had them backed up, and there was just a few seconds to go in the game, and they punted, but we couldn't make the catch. Had we caught the ball, we would have had a good free kick opportunity with Adam, but it was a kick that was into the wind, and we just couldn't quite get to it, and so it hit the ground, or it would have been a free kick situation. So. But things like that are unusual. We saw a couple plays this year that were not the norm. For example, the San Francisco play against New Orleans at the end of the half, and things like that where that just you don't see or you haven't seen in a long time, and you either have to kind of refresh yourself of it or remind the players and the coaches as well. We do that on a regular basis. We go over situations weekly. And again, a lot of those happen in other games, and sometimes that situation doesn't even necessarily line up with something that happens in our game, but it just makes you think about those things, and sometimes that leads to other, adjustments or plays. Some of the situations are so, if you just add or subtract a second or two from the situation, or add or subtract 2 or 3, 4 or 5 yards, and then if you put a timeout into that equation, with or without it, you get a pretty dramatic shift on what the strategy would be, what type of play you would want or wouldn't want. So really, it doesn't take much to tweak some of those situations to really change your thinking. And again, that's where our communication with particularly the signal callers, whether that's Tom on offense or Donta or Devin on defense, to kind of know what we want in that situation is critical, and it's an ongoing. It's definitely a moving target. Again, it's not so much even the play as it is just knowing how to play the situation, because every team has a different play.
Hey, Bill. Tom was talking last night at Media Day, about the energy level, especially at the start of a game, and he gets amped up and he has to be aware of that so that he has energy left at the game. From your perspective as a coach, how do you have to monitor the players throughout this ultimate game and make sure you guys are playing your best football at the end of the game?
Yeah, it's a very challenging situation because there's so much leading up to the game, and it's a long game between pregame to the start of the game, halftime, TV timeouts and so forth. It just extends longer than what it normally does, again, including the pregame part of it. So, we just try to pace ourselves through that. Some of that's nutrition and hydration and things like that. Part of it's just, I'd say, an understanding of what it's going to be like, so that you don't get surprised and get into the middle of the game or middle of the third quarter, and that's kind of when the game would be ending. But there's still another 20 minutes to play or so. So I think understanding that, and making sure that the pace of the game for each individual, which is different. An offensive lineman or defensive lineman's pace is a lot different than receivers that are running and defensive backs that are running 30, 40, 50 yards to cover them. It's a different type of condition. It's different between boxing and distance running, and then you have a lot of guys in between. So it's definitely challenging, but it's the same for both teams. It's the same environment. Everybody needs to try to maximize all those things I just talked about: their rest, their attentiveness, their pace, so they don't burn out too soon. But this is a challenge. This game's unlike any other that way.
Coach, back here in the middle, we're from San Diego following Joe Cardona, and I wonder if you could speak to him as a man and as a player, especially with your Navy background as well.
Yeah, it's really a privilege to have Joe on our team. Joe's a tremendous person. He's done a great job as a snapper, in terms of protection and recognition of the rushes that we see in this league and so forth. There's definitely a learning curve for him, but he's done a really good job of that. And he and Nate Ebner work very well together in terms of handling the protection from the line to the personal protector. Joe's a good athlete. He works hard. He trains hard. He puts up good numbers in the weight room. He's an athletic kid. He's not, we've had less athletic snappers than him, let's put it that way. And personally, Joe represents everything that we want to stand for. And he's, a great person. And, of course, his real job, defending our freedom, is at the very top of the list. We have great respect for the training and the work that he's done to do that. Last year was an even more challenging year for Joe because he was, on active duty in Newport, and so his day job was the Navy, and his second job was pro football. And obviously that's a lot different from every other player in the room. And I think once everybody fully understood that you just gained even more respect for Joe, that what he was doing was, in addition to a job, whereas for everybody else, that was what we had. So Joe's got great leadership as well, for his position. He does an excellent job with, gets along with all the teammates. He's, interacts well with everybody. He's a good communicator. And, works hard, does his job, and is a very good teammate. Is always trying to help out wherever he can. So glad we have him, and he's improved a lot this year, just being able to dedicate the season full time to football. He had a good year for us last year, but he's made a big jump here in year 2. So he's done a good job for us. We're glad we have him.
Bill, on the back on your left.
Yeah.
When you're coming up with game plans to take on an offense like Atlanta, how much do you go over the things that you've done in the past and how much it applies to, do you catalog all the different game plans that you've come up with over the years and review them, or is it sort of from like this point you're going through it in your head? How does it happen?
Yeah. Well, no, I'd say it's more than in our head, certainly in my head, because my memory isn't really that good now. So it helps to go back. But I think you go back and look at other games, and we critique each game. So at the end of each game, we talk about the things ourselves. We look at what we did well, what we didn't do well, what we would do differently if we were playing this team again, things that might have happened in the game that were noteworthy and so forth. So when you reflect back on a game like that, whether it's against the team you're playing or a team with the same coordinator or a team with a similar playing style, sure, you look back at those notes and sometimes it pops right back to you, and sometimes you maybe need to go look at it, examine it a little bit more carefully and see what you did or what you didn't do, and how it matched up against that particular scheme. The players probably are going to be different, but from a scheme standpoint, what you were telling a guy to read or what you were telling a guy to key or that type of thing, how doable that was or how effective it was or wasn't. So I'd say it's a combination of all those. You go back through your notes on those things. Again, sometimes you look at them and say, well, that's a good idea. We should take a look at that this week. And sometimes you look at it and say, yeah, that was good for them, but this is really different. This is a little different situation. We don't really want to do that. And somewhere along the line, it all comes together and you sort it out. And, you add some things, you probably kick some ideas out, and you end up where you are, and hopefully it ties together and it has a good, they interface with each other, they disguise well, or the plays complement each other offensively, so that, you just don't have a scattering of a play here, an idea there, that it all fits together in a good comprehensive game plan. So that's, that process takes some time. It takes some time individually, and then collectively have a staff, and then as you put it together and evaluate the practice plays on the field, then you modify it a little bit further from there.
Coach, over here, Tom Brady said his dad was his hero. I'm curious how your father has influenced your coaching over the years.
Well, I influenced it greatly. I grew up going to Navy practices and meetings that he would have with the team. He scouted the Navy's upcoming opponents, so on Tuesday nights, he would go over to the field house. The team would come over. He would watch the film with them. Of course, back in those days, players went both ways, so it was kind of, you watch continuous game film, offense, defense, special teams. But the same guys were out there playing, whether on offense or defense. And so I'd go over there with him and sit and listen to him talk to the team about, here's what they're going to do. This is a key. Here's this backfield set. Here's this guy's stance. Here's whatever it was. But talk to the team, prepare the team from a scouting standpoint, and going to practice. And of course, that gave me a great opportunity to see, a number of great coaches that were at the Naval Academy. Head coaches like Wayne Harden, and assistant coaches like Coach Rosano, Coach Corso, Ernie George. Just go right down the line. There were dozens of them. Joe Mark, Joe Bugle, just offense, all the positions. So, each guy had a different style, each guy had a different way of doing things, and I kind of learned that, you could be a good coach doing it this way, doing it that way, but, fit in your style. But again, as it goes back to my dad, I'd say hard work, preparation, to go to a game and watch him scout the game was, it was an unforgettable experience, really. There'd be 4 or 5 other scouts in the press box scouting the game besides him, and he'd be there with his book and scout it, and he would write down the substitutions, the play, and would be ready to go for the next play. And then when it was all over, those plays, again, this is back in the days where it took 2 days for the film to come in. Those plays were the game. I mean, you had to wait 2 days before you could actually see the play on film. And then meanwhile, there'd be other guys scouting, and they were like, "What happened on that play? Who caught that? What was it?" And I mean, he was just so good at it. So when the game would be over and we'd be driving home, we'd talk about the game, but he saw every play, the blocking scheme, the defense, the pattern that they ran, how it was covered, what coverage they were in, who blitzed. And, he had a great vision. So he taught me those, tried to explain those keys to me, how he watched the guard triangle, the fullback, get a run pass key, take his eyes, move down to the passing game if the quarterback was off the line of scrimmage. If it was a running game, then, go to the line, see the puller, see the blocking pattern. But before that, he already knew the down and distance, the field position, the formation and the front. And so that was already kind of locked in, and then he would just put it together. So, I mean, it was really impressive. But, again, I realized that came from not just watching it, but preparing for it, knowing who the players were, knowing what the plays were going into the game, and that type of thing. And, when he would come back, usually came back Saturday night after the game. So let's just say Navy was playing a home game. He would go scout Penn State or whoever it was and get back Saturday night. Sunday morning, Coach Rosano, Coach George, Coach Harden, they would come over or call him and say, what happened in the game? Because they hadn't seen the film yet. And he'd tell them, they ran this defense, but they started blitzing this guy more than they ever have. And those kind of things, so it really got him ahead on the game plan. Now, of course, technology has eliminated that, but so those are some of the influences that, I learned from him. I was fortunate, too, as a, not a real good player. He ran a football camp with Jack Cloud, and so I had an opportunity to coach in that camp. Not that I was like a coach, but, doing some of being more on the coaching end of it than the playing end of it as I got into high school, college for sure, because I wasn't allowed to go to the camp as a player. That was for high school players only, but so kind of getting into coaching even at that level and just understanding coaching meetings, coaching personalities, decisions, techniques, fundamentals, things like that, preparations. So, yeah, long answer to a short question. I'm famous for it, I'm sure.
Bill, over here to your right, fourth row, I'm wondering what you think of winning this game could do for Tom Brady's legacy, and how, when you've been to 7, losing this game could be seen as a negative. That probably could pertain to you, too, in your legacy.
Yeah, I really don't think about any of that. I'm just trying to think about how we can prepare and compete and perform our best Sunday night against the Falcons. That legacy, that's a good question. That's a thing for you to write about. That's not really... I'm just trying to get ready to coach the game. Our players are trying to get ready to play it. And we want to go out there and compete as well as we can Sunday night. So all the rest of it is what it is. Okay, great. Thank you.